The following episode of the Voices of Resilience podcast contains sensitive topics, including conversations surrounding intergenerational trauma, addiction, substance abuse, systemic racism, mental health, gang violence, domestic abuse, and suicide. These themes may be distressing to some viewers. We encourage those affected by these topics to seek support and care while viewing. Viewer discretion is advised.
One of the things that I always like to say is I'm grateful for my mistakes because it made me who I am today. I picked up the hoop again, I made an outfit, I started dancing again. I started reconnecting back to this, the hoop dance. Being involved in cultural work, sharing these traditions and teachings, this is all part of the healing. This is all part of my purpose. And I felt Creator's guidance, guiding me back.
Dante, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Voices of Resilience podcast. This is actually the start of our season 2, and I couldn't think of a more amazing connection to start the season off with than a brand new connection that I actually made not too long ago. And even though it is new, I feel like I've known this person my whole life. And the reason why I wanted him on here in the first place was because he has an amazing story to tell. He came from very rough upbringings, and we'll get into that in a little bit here, but found his way back to ceremony through hoop dance, and now is dedicating his life to sharing not only his story, but the ceremony that he found through this practice, through this art, all over Canada. This is Jay Genaille. How are you doing, man? How was your journey down here? It was quite the weekend for you.
I mean, we're always traveling. We've been on the road for a few months now, and you know, traveling can be quite exhausting, right? So
especially when you're doing it full time, right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
You guys, I don't think you guys have been taking a break. Like we got off the road with each other officially, like what, last week?
Yeah.
And you guys have still been on the road since then.
We are in Edmonton right now,
Mm-hmm.
and then we kind of had some work to do up in Banff, and actually it was one of my first times drumming and singing. So it wasn't even like me doing a presentation, a hoop dance presentation. It was just me drumming and singing. And I'm not a drummer, I'm not a singer, but I got asked to go and fill in for a drummer. And so, yeah, I put my skills to the test, and it was really fun. It was super fun. I actually took a lead, and yeah, the spotlight was on me. Spotlight was on me, and I took that lead, and I did pretty good, you know?
That's awesome,
So,
man. Like first time ever drumming, and you're also leading it now
Yeah.
too. Holy crap. Another thing you just have under your belt, man. That's awesome.
Yes.
I want to just jump right into it and ask you about your personal journey. Specifically before you found hoop dancing. Do you want to share what those first years, like connecting back to your Indigenous culture, connecting firstly to hoop dancing, and where all of that came from?
My ancestral roots originate from Missa-Poistic Cree Nation in Manitoba, Lake St. Martin First Nations in Manitoba, and then Cowessess First Nations in Saskatchewan. The Manitoba reservations where my ancestral roots are from is from my mom's side, and then Saskatchewan is from my father's side. And then I'm Nihiao and Anishinaabe. So growing up on the Blackfoot Treaty 7 territory, colonially known as Calgary, Alberta, my father was adopted by a white French woman who I call grandmother, and she's a very amazing person, very awesome person. love her very much. And she is a Christian. And so growing up, I was raised around Christianity. And when I was a baby, I got baptized. That's what I was told, that I was baptized. My grandmother also, on my mom's side, is like, she went to residential school, so she's heavily like believes in God and Jesus and all of that. You know, she preaches it all the time to me. Growing up on the Blackfoot Treaty 7 territory, I kind of lived in a rough neighborhood, rough community. Every city has it. And we bounced from house to house to house with my parents. My grandmother, she lived at the same house since my mom was a kid. I kind of went that way towards like having a little bit of structure, a little bit of stability. So I got that from my grandmother on my mom's side, and my grandmother on my father's side, she would always bring us to church. We'd always go to Sunday school and all of that. And so I really understood like that religion a lot. My mom, she tried to gravitate us towards our culture and learning our identity as Indigenous people. And at that time, I was so young that I actually didn't even really understand. You know, I was kind of disconnected from the culture.
Yeah. The tether between what you were being told and what you were learning wasn't connecting to your internal medicine wheel quite yet.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just, she put us into, so my teacher, the one that taught me how to hoop dance, he was running a Boys and Girls Club at that time at a community center. And I remember my mother bringing my sister first. And at that time, I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in going. So it took a little bit of convincing for me to actually go and gain the courage to go, right? So, but after she convinced me, you know, to go try it out, I went. It's probably the best decision I ever made, because now I'm doing what I love today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So it's, yeah, it was awesome that I was able to come to that decision and make that choice to go. So during that time, I got like, once I picked up the hoop and I learned the tricks and I learned the dance, I started, like, I picked up really quick. I learned really fast, and he started bringing me everywhere throughout Turtle Island. So some of the most memorable events that I've attended were the Grandstand Show. I danced there 2 years in a row as a youth, and then I went and represented the Calgary Stampede in Orlando, Florida, and also attended the World Champion Hoop Dance competition, where I placed 5th, 3rd, and 2nd. So I still have yet to go as an adult, but that is in the making. Like, we were supposed to go last year, but we got too busy, we got caught up on some things, and unfortunately, we're unable to go this time. But that's next year. Next year it's already in the making.
Yeah, all in due time.
Yeah, exactly. So those are some of the earlier days of my hoop dancing. And then I went up till I was about 14, 15 years old, and my parents started to really get into addiction and crime. So it wasn't long after till I followed in their footsteps. And, you know, they were so heavily involved in those activities that I stopped dancing, and I thought that was also cool too to do. So I started partying. I started getting mixed up in the wrong crowd and, involving myself in gang activities. So that's what brought the hoop dance to an end. And because I was disconnected, right? Like I was really disconnected. I didn't know the meanings.
Yeah, the spiritual connection wasn't
exactly,
there.
the spiritual connection was not there, and I didn't know the teachings behind the hoop. All I just knew, I knew I was a good dancer.
You knew you were good at it.
Yeah.
And you were getting there was a sense of praise that was coming because you were learning it so quickly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of started to lose myself even more and started involving myself in that criminal activity as well. And I eventually ended up going to juvie and going to a couple of treatment centers. And the treatment center that I went to wasn't even really that much of a help. There was staff members that were actually bringing us in drugs as well.
Wow.
So it was like just a place to just chill out, really. It was like a vacation for me.
Yeah.
And for me at that time, of course, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun for me. I was like, I'm out of juvie and I get to smoke weed and, watch TV, enjoy myself. Like it wasn't even a place of healing.
Again, the spiritual connection between like the tether of like understanding why you were there in the first place wasn't being met.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so after that I got out and I actually went back to Calgary and I just picked up where I left off.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even thinking at that time. I just wanted to have fun, right? And so I involved myself again in the same crowd of people.
Yeah. At what age?
But I also met my son's mother at that time too. And, we started dating and I was with her for about 5 years or so. And, I had my son at an early age. It was like 17, 18. It was like I had him met, and I tried to get myself on track, and we ended up actually moving back to where she's from. I tried to clean up my act, but I was still drinking every day. I was working, but I was still drinking every day. I would come back home and I would have like a 6-pack or I'd have a 12-pack. And eventually it got out of control, right? And we ended up splitting, parting ways. And I went back to Calgary again. And that's when I lost everything, like I felt like, because I was with her for so long, it was just like that heartbreak was just, it wasn't good at all. So I just started going really hard into the drugs and alcohol and involving myself, of course, in gang activity and stuff like that. And so I then got myself involved in something bad where I had went to prison for it. I actually did time for it. And I went away for 5 years. And then during that time while I was in there was a lot of reflection that I had during that time. And it's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't been able to go through that type of experience. You kind of think, if you don't, it's hard for somebody to understand that if they haven't been through it themselves, So there was just some really heavy spiritual stuff that happened, experiences in there that, made me, it just turned a light switch on, and all of the reflection, everything that I've been through in my life, I just, I knew that I needed to change. And of course, a big thing was my son, right? I was like, am I gonna grow up to be like my father? I don't want my son to see that type of life, right? And his mom, like, did a really great job of keeping him away from that. And I was sick at that time. So, you know, she had to protect him from me in a way. And I understand that now. At the time, I kind of resented her, you know, I kind of, I disliked what she was doing, but I understand it today. I understand what she was doing now. And we have a great relationship today. You know, we have that common ground. And I'm grateful that my son was able to grow up during my absence in a good environment, in a good home, you know. So I'm very grateful for that, very grateful for her. And then, I got out and I knew I had to make a change. I knew that I wasn't going back to Calgary, right? Initially, I was supposed to go back, but then, like, last minute, I said, no, I want to go. I need to find a better place for me to be able to do this stuff on my own. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, right? So I just said, let's go to Vancouver. And so I went to Vancouver, and that's when I really started to work on myself a lot. Yeah, there was those resources and programs that really helped me. There's a program called Harbor Lights that actually helped me really. That was like a space for me where I really tried my hardest to start to speak about my feelings and some of the traumas and stuff that I've endured throughout my life. So yeah, that program, it was amazing. It was an awesome program for me to be able to just to start that journey of healing. And then I started going to ceremony. I started involving myself, like, spiritually connecting myself to the land and Creator. Like, throughout my whole life, I've always felt like I was different, you know, amongst the groups that I would be in.
Yeah.
I always felt like, I always felt that I was a different person than the rest of them, you know. So I was at that point, I was finally learning who I was, my identity, connecting to my culture, the importance of connecting to culture. Then I eventually found the hoop dance again. I finally reconnected back to that. And my mother, she was the one that actually got me into hoop dancing. When she had passed away, I never thought that I would get back into hoop dancing. But I felt something strong. I felt her spirit is what it was. And I felt Creator's guidance guiding me back to the hoop dance. And followed by a few other people that encouraged me, you know, to pick up where I left off, right? And so I picked up the hoop again, I made an outfit, and then I started dancing again. I started reconnecting back to the hoop dance. But yeah, my mom's been passed on now for 13 years, and she passed away. The cops ruled it off as a suicide, but it wasn't. Yeah, there's just some questionable things that, just were suspicious. You know, it was questionable. And she was well known to the police out in Calgary, and she's an Indigenous woman, right? And there's really corrupt cops out there.
There's been a history of neglect and overlooking evidence when it comes to cases like this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so her boyfriend at that time, prior to this, he actually beat her and put her in the hospital. And so even though it was ruled off as a suicide, I kind of had suspicions myself of like what really went on. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt at first. But then once I seen the physical evidence, I was like, what is this? You know? And she had bruises like all the way down to her feet, from her neck all the way down to her feet. And You know, I thought that was really suspicious, and it was just an open shut type case. Like it was just like it just ruled off just like that, and the only people that knew was her and him. Yeah. So yeah, he told the story to the cops, and that was it. It was done. You know, she locked him out, and she went and just offed herself, right? Committed suicide. And so that's what it was ruled off as. But even prior to that day, like, my mom was never suicidal. You know, she was never that way. She loved her kids. She loved her grandchildren. Yeah. You know, she's always expressed that. My mom has never showed signs of suicide. So that's what led me to believe, you know, all of those factors is what led me to believe that it was a different story. Yeah, it's just it's sad. It's a sad story that just, you know, I wish I knew the truth too, right? Because, yeah, just miss my mom, love her lots, you know. And I know that what I'm doing today, she's watching over me, and she's really proud, and she's really happy. During the 13 years that she's been passed on, she's come to visit me 3 times, you know, to let me know that she's okay, that she's all right, and that what I'm doing is needed, you know, to keep on this journey, to keep on this path. You know, she's still guiding me as she did when I was a little boy. And I feel that every time I get on stage, every time I share my story, I feel her. So, you know, she was a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful spirit. Love her very much. And there was also times too where I know I'm here for a reason. I know my purpose. I've been through a lot of violence in my life. You know, I've been stabbed multiple times. I've been stabbed in the temple, in the neck, in the jugular. These are like kill shots too, eh? And I've been chopped in the head with the machete. This is through all gang violence. I've had many near-death experiences. I've been shot at multiple times. And Creator is keeping me here for a reason, you know? And today, being involved in cultural work, sharing these traditions and teachings, this is all part of the healing. This is all part of my purpose. Connecting back to the hoop is a big part of that journey. And I live my life based on this hoop. You know, it's a lifestyle. It's the circle of life. It represents the medicine wheel as well. So I base my life on all 4 of those aspects. And the medicine wheel, it's got the 4 stages of life, the 4 stages of health, the 4 stages of the 4 directions, the 4 elements, right? So we live, we're born, we become teenagers, we become adults, and then we become elders, right? Those are the 4 stages of life.
And then we pass it on to the next.
And that's it, yeah. So I try to keep an open mind into learning, right? Because you can learn from anybody, no matter how small, how big, how young, how old, everything in between. You know, and before I used to just be really stubborn and I didn't listen to anybody. But once I shift that mindset, you know, I began to see my life grow in a healthy way, you know.
Thank you for sharing all of that. By the way, that's I know a lot of what you just shared is hard. It's hard to get out. Thank you for trusting us with these stories as well. I think the biggest point that keeps coming across to me with all of your stories, everything that has brought you to this point, is how much you mirror that circle of life, right? How many full circle situations you've come through in your life that's brought you to this point of being able to be of service to other communities. But you had to go through hell and back first to get to that point, right? Even when like looking at the story of your mother and how you lost her and how she was the main catalyst to you finding your way to hoop dancing in the first place. And I don't know if we've shared this with the podcast yet, but she was the one that helped you create your first regalia.
Yes.
Right? And it's gotten to the point now where you have created your own regalia in the lessons that your mom has given you, and you now dance with your mom alongside you.
Yes.
Right? So I see a full circle situation that is the human embodiment of Jay. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, of course. Yeah, my mom, that outfit that she had, like that I dance with today. Yeah. My teacher, who's a 4-time world champion hoop dancer, it was last year, I believe, that he brought to me that gift. He gifted me that outfit, and it was quite emotional because he was like, your mom helped me make this outfit. This was one of her first outfits. And I had a outfit similar to his outfit, that same outfit that I wear today. But it got lost along the way. And, it was just awesome to be able to have a piece of history, my mother, just something that my mother had made. It just makes it all that more special, It was all meant to happen.
Absolutely.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for him and grateful that he was able to gift me that outfit.
That's beautiful, man.
Yes.
And as much as it is painful, the experiences that we go through and the experiences that you've gone through in this life, it's there's no doubt in my mind that there were no coincidences in the moments and the experiences that you've had, right? There's no coincidences. Everything was supposed to happen to get you to this point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I always like to say is I'm grateful for my mistakes because it made me who I am today, right? So sometimes you got to suffer in life to be able to learn those lessons, and everybody's journey is different.
Libraries have always been more than just shelves for books. They've been keepers of stories, of knowledge, and of community memory. That's why we are so excited to be able to partner with the Red Deer Public Library to help amplify and preserve our Indigenous voices through the Voices of Resilience podcast. Did you know that RDPL memberships are free to all of City of Red Deer residents? Because I didn't. Your library card connects you to thousands of books, movies, magazines, language tools, games, and so much more. Plus, 24/7 access to a digital library that you can access from anywhere. Swing by any of RDPL's 4 locations or visit rdpl.org to sign up, tap into all of their programs for all ages, and reconnect yourself with the immense power of storytelling. Culture lives where it's shared, and this is just the beginning. So coming from, firstly, if I'm not mistaken, a path down Christianity route, and then also trying to find your way back to your Indigenous culture, was there a weird fine line that you felt like you were walking between the two while you were transitioning, or did it feel more along the lines of you were finding the mirrors between the two?
I struggled between the two and didn't really know couldn't really understand both. I don't know, I thought one was separate from the other, but over time, I kind of learned to put it together. It's the same thing, right? The only thing is I don't pray to Jesus.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't pray to Jesus. It's just God, right? God, creator, God.
The core teachings are still the same, right? You put all of the organized religion aside, all of the mitigation, like having a middleman between you and God, throw all of that out the window. The core teachings are very mirrored between our what we're learned in our different cultures. Like for me, for the Cree teachings that I was passed down, and also coming from a background of Christianity, it's just how to be a good person and how to live a better life and to treat other people around you the same.
Yeah.
With your background with that and transitioning into hoop dancing, there, is that when you started really understanding more about yourself, more about your identity?
Of course, yeah. Because of the teachings with the hoop, right? That's what actually brought me in and more connected and wanting to learn more about the teachings of our ways, you know? So, yeah, just reconnecting to the hoop dance and those teachings is really what did it for me. And I wanted to, focus on the aspects of health and living that healthy, balanced lifestyle based on the medicine wheel, right? All 4 aspects of health: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. And that kind of, the spiritual side drew me closer to ceremony. And, you know, I began to start sun dancing and going to fast camps and sitting with elders and just sitting there and listening to, you know, some of their teachings, right? And then trying to apply those things to my life. Not everything, but what resonated with me.
Exactly. You take what works with you and what doesn't.
Exactly.
Right? With our oral teachings, you literally you have to figure out what resonates with you and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And just because an elder says it doesn't mean it's the law.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to question these teachings that are being passed down on whether or not they are rooted in tradition or if they're rooted in something else, right? So yeah, let's jump into, I love talking about the medicine wheel because you can boil it down in so many different directions, from our elements to our directions. So you boil it right down to what the community needs and then what the self needs, which is what you were talking about, our internal medicine wheel, which needs to be, in my opinion, the priority to focus on above everything else. You need to focus on your own internal medicine wheel before you can focus on your external.
Yeah, for sure.
And you spoke on the spiritual aspect and the physical aspect, the mental aspect and the emotional aspect. When you look at all of that as a stat for like a template for every human being, depending on which spoke you want to focus on, you could probably give like just a very basic list of the things you need to focus on to be physically healthier, right? But then our medicine wheel, the reason why we put it in a wheel is to show the balance and the effect that focusing on one area can have on all the other areas.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your own personal journey, what you need to focus on now with all of the work that you do, with all of the traveling that you do, because you and I both know that can take a huge toll on you in all parts of that medicine wheel if you're not careful.
Of course.
Especially with the work that you do on the road.
Yeah.
It's a very emotional, and anything that has to do with an Indigenous perspective is always rooted in trauma. There's no way to get around that. Go one by one. What do you focus on to help keep that medicine wheel as healthy as you can?
Spiritually is it's definitely a big part. And it's really important that I work on that aspect, that I find that balance.
I think that's like the North Star first, right? That's what you got to focus on first before anything else. Right?
Yeah, for sure. It really helps me to ground myself, stay grounded. You know, I'm really sensitive to spirits and energy, right? And I'm a very spiritual person, definitely. Those spaces and ceremony allow me to heal, right? It's healing for me. And then even while I'm on the road, it keeps my mental aspect in check.
Yeah.
You know? And engaging in prayers, brushing off with, smudging with the sage.
Mm-hmm.
It's all super important. It's all, that's a big part. And mentally, just speaking with, like, I got a counselor that I speak with. And so I think everybody should have, it's just my personal opinion, right?
Preach the choir, man. It's me too. Everyone needs to talk to somebody.
Exactly. Everybody needs to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And
it can't just be like, friends and family are great if you can have that relationship with them, that you can feel free to open up and talk about that stuff. But there's also like, there's a consent that needs to be had when you're sharing these darker parts of yourself, right? And sometimes friends and family aren't very equipped, especially at all times, to be giving that to someone, right? Which is why counseling is so important.
yes.
So I cannot stress that enough. Like, regular counseling sessions, it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength.
Yeah, I think everyone should have a counselor.
Absolutely.
There's a professional side to it too, right? That's what it is. There's a professional side that you get, right? And then your friends, your family, of course, you can talk to them as well too. But those are just other perspectives that you have as well. So, and then elders, sitting with elders, like, I've got so many great elders out there that I sit with me and my wife, Anna, and we sit there for days sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Not actually consist like days like that, but we'll sit there all day and then come back the next day and sit there again, right? And they'll share and we'll share.
Yeah.
And that's a big part as well too. So
when it comes to thinking about ceremony, I think there needs to be a drastic shift.
Oh, for sure.
And just understanding that ceremony takes time. Healing takes time.
Of course.
Right?
And it's a lifelong journey, You don't just go to, you don't just attend these ceremonies and then it's all fixed, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You need to work on it consistently. It's a constant work in progress.
Yes.
And it's lifelong. Even when I'm old, right? When I get to that age, I'm still going to be working on myself. I'm still going to be working on my mental, my spiritual, my emotional.
Yeah.
Hopefully physical too.
Well, and that all comes. I think the physical body is like the last thing, right? But we always focus on that as being like the first thing that we need to focus on. We need to be physically fit. We have to have the six-pack. We have to have all these things, and then all of a sudden we're gonna feel better mentally. And yes, there's a little bit of that does tie into it. But if you're not working on the mental at the same time, if you're not working on the emotional at the same time, and if you don't understand your spiritual beliefs, and when I say that, the simplest way I can put that is like what your why is. Right? And I think we've had this conversation before. Is like why you are the way you are, why you believe what you believe in.
Yeah.
And you said it. It's just like any other practice. You have to put the consistency in. Yeah. It's the spiritual aspect is another muscle to work out, and that comes from not only going to ceremony, but also what you said is that you guys sit with these elders for days. Yeah. And that's not consistent 24 hours. I'm only seeing this person's face, but you sit with them until you feel the need to process it on your own, and then you come back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So the workshops that I facilitate are workshops to reconnect, our youth. I've been working with a lot of youth lately. So it's just to, for them, it's for a way for them to reconnect. Also just to encourage, inspire, motivate, and also teaching, educating, right? Educating around the hoop and what it means. When I go to my workshop, I always get everybody to get into a circle. And then we go around in a circle and we talk about what that circle means. And then we get into the step, the two-step, dance, the footwork, and then into the tricks, right? And the importance of stretching when you start to dance. Also, at the end of it, we go around in a circle and we talk about what it is that they took from that workshop, from that lesson, and how they are going to move forward in the future with what they learned in that workshop. It just fills my spirit, it fills my cup, makes me feel whole. And in those moments, I'm just super happy, joyful, filled with love and so much gratitude. So it helps me in that sense. But also when I come back and I decompress at home, I'll get like an email, or even after a show, I'll get somebody that comes up to me. And one memorable one is this boy. He came up to me and he said, "Wow, I really like the hoop dance." He's like, "I want to be just like you when I grow older." So, that really touches me and really allows me to know that I'm going in the right direction. There was a girl who was from Syria, and she actually had a bomb blow up in her face where she had actually lost her eye as well. And so she felt comfortable and safe enough to share with me after the show that this had happened to her. And so she asked me to sign her glasses, her prescription glasses. And I was like, "I'm not going to do that. I can't sign that. You're not going to be able to see." And then she said, "No, I have no eye." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then she had told me the story. And then I shared with her, I also have no eye too. Because usually I wear a prosthetic, but I left it. I lost my eye.
No coincidence.
Yeah. But yeah. So she felt safe enough to share that story, and it just, I just made her feel really safe and comfortable. So
you made her feel seen.
Exactly, and was able to give her that voice to be able to share. That was really touching. It was really moving for sure. So, and then there was also a teacher that came to me afterwards too, saying, "Don't ever give up. Keep on doing what you're doing. Everybody needs to hear your story." So those are just confirmation comments and things like that people see that, allow me to keep on going.
We focused on the past, we focused on the present of what you're currently doing. Let's focus on the future a little bit. What are you excited for? And I'm not even talking about like the near future stuff, because this episode isn't going to come out for a little while now. But where you see your career in hoop dancing with these workshops, with connecting ceremony to hoop dancing, what you've seen with these kids, where do you see this evolving in the future? What are you really excited for?
Me and my partner, we kind of had that vision of bringing the hoop dance into a framework to be able to teach from K to 12 schools. So that's kind of another area we want to look at as well. But also for Indigicree, I want it to go, I want to be able to create spaces and resources for the youth, not only the youth, but men and women as well too, that are incarcerated and need that extra support and help. I think it's important because I was in that position at one point in my life, and that's what I needed to be able to, get to where I'm at. And I feel that if I'm able to create those spaces, a lot of people will be able to be successful in what they're seeking. So, and then just like, yeah, bringing in the teachings of the hoop dance, you know, I think that can help a lot of people. And, you know, even with our indigenous or our non-indigenous folks, you know, just have an understanding and then them be able to do what they need and apply those teachings as well to their life if needed, or however they choose to take it, you know.
That's beautiful, man. I love the idea of incorporating this as a core structure as far as the education system goes.
Yeah.
We're seeing very little bits of it being reincorporated back into our public schools to not only share the actual history of Canada, but just share the Indigenous teachings that were always supposed to come along with it. And I see no other better way to do that but through hoop dancing, especially
Yes.
the way that I've seen you teach it. It brings in our medicine wheel teachings. There we go. It brings in our medicine wheel teachings and our 7 sacred teachings all together, right? So I'm excited for you. And if there's any way that I can incorporate and help out with that, absolutely. If anyone is listening out there right now who feels like that they can help out in any way, shape, or form with this vision, please reach out to Jay and Anna through Indigicree and see where you can incorporate with this, or if there's any other help financial wise or anything like that, because you've stated it before, you would do this free if you could.
Yes.
And that's
also another thing too. That's also a goal as well, is to eventually be able to do this hoop dance and be able to, like, the payment going to like a charity, you know. So that's eventually where I want to be at, you know, because I just feel like and this is why my partner takes care of all of the administrative pieces, you know. She does all that hard work and organizing and finances and everything, because I don't want to bring that type of energy into the teachings and the dancing and all of that, right? It kind of goes with ceremony and people paying for ceremony. That's what I kind of feel like it is for me anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if I can help support others in the future off of teaching the dance and the teachings around the hoop, then, you know, that's the goal. That's what I would like to do. That's what's going to fill my spirit even more.
For anyone who has resonated with your story here today in any shape or form, and anyone who is struggling to find their way back to identity, to find their way back to culture, and doesn't know where to start off with, is there any words of advice, any words that you'd like to share?
For me, I second-guessed myself so many times on if this was the right move to make, you know, because I had my son that I had to support, I had myself that I had to support, I had a partner as well too, and you all know we all have bills that we have to take care of, right? So
yeah,
I was working, you know, I had a really good job at that time, and I didn't I was super worried, and I didn't know if I was going to be making the right decision. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the work. And so I went in 100%. I just put my all into it. And I said, no, I'm going to make this work. I have to make this work. And so, you know, that's when I made that decision. I came home, and I remember I told my partner, I said, I'm done. I'm quitting my job, and I'm going full, like I'm focusing my full attention into hoop dancing again. And so that's what I did. I believed in my work, I believed in myself, and I set those short, long-term goals. Having a system in place is super important, you know. So it's finding a system that works for yourself know that you're gonna face challenges, you're gonna have those barriers, you're gonna have mistakes that are gonna be made, but in like just learning how to overcome them the best way possible, you know, and not giving up on yourself. That is super important, because if it was just that easy, everybody would be doing it, you know. So yeah, just believe in yourself, believe in your work, don't ever give up, stay consistent, be patient, and stay committed, dedicated, work hard, and you'll get to whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, you know. So that would be my message for everybody out there.
Amazing, man.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
And thank you so much for coming down today. I know you guys have a crazy busy schedule. Where are you off to next?
So it's going to be Prince George. We're actually at a nation out in Prince George, McLeod Lake. We got a conference out there, a 3-day, it's 4 days, but I'll be there for 3 days. So it's a 3-day conference for me. And then all of September, we'll be all over the provinces. And then in November, we'll be heading out to New Zealand for a conference as well. So, yeah.
Well,
I'm
if
excited.
you need a videographer for that, let me know. That's always been on my bucket list.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. I'm so excited for you and for your journey. I can't wait to see where you guys end up going, and I can't wait to see you back on the show again another time here. I know you have so many other stories to share. So
thank you so much for having us. I raise my hands to you. Hi, Magwitch. Trying to find the position,
the sweet
that way
spot.
It's not like sticking out like this.
Yeah. I think it took me until episode 3 to like hone in my stuff, and it's still not 100% there because I just almost deleted everything. There we go.